If you're someone who's been on this crazy screwed up assembly of connected computers and transfers of information called the internet for some time now, it's likely you know not everything you see here is true. And if you're someone who has some common sense, you'll know that a little bit of skepticism never hurt anybody. So when you hear or read something on the internet that says you can only ever use 10% of your brain, and there's a massive untapped power locked up in your cranium, you have to wonder yourself, is that really true? Well, the short answer is no. But here on Stuff You've Probably Wondered, we're here to not only see if things are true or false, but why they're true or false. So let's get to it. The origin of this myth, like a lot of other urban legends, is one that isn't very easy to locate. However, one of many explanations is that the idea for a brain at 10% capacity came from a psychologist and philosopher, William James. In 1906, he published an article in the popular journal Science called The Energies of Man. Now, James was a rather groundbreaking philosopher because not only did he live during the cusp of a revolution in human psychology that would take place in the next century, but he made some pretty bold statements, such as the idea that the thoughts are actually tangible things. In other words, they actually exist in the physical world and are not some sort of abstract idea. Seems pretty crazy, but considering he was one of the early psychological giants of the 20th century, his ideas were far better than their average philosophy major. Anyways, The Energy of Man was an article about a theory James had about the power of the human mind. In it, he said, "We are making use of only a small part of our mental and physical resources, among other things." The idea that humans are capable of more than they seem at face value was something no one had considered before, and this is true. When given the right situations, a single human can do amazing things, such as super strength or immense mental clarity when put under extreme stress. However, as with most ideas that age, they can become distorted as time goes on. Someone might happen upon James' article and consider it a reason for a person's shortcomings. Perhaps all the negative connotations about someone needs but a bit of brain tapping and boom! Suddenly you are more brilliant and wise than you ever thought possible. This brings us back to the 10% issue. The truth is, you use 100% of your brain, all day, every day. The catch is that you only use certain portions of your brain at one time. Think of it this way. If you were to get up in the morning and make coffee, your brain has to do several things to get you to that hot cup of joe. It has to wake you up, shake your limbs to get them moving, locate everything in the room so you remember where the stairs are, move your legs to get you downstairs, access the knowledge how to make the coffee, remember that it will be initially too hot to drink, and finally work your mouth, swallowing mechanism, and stomach to start processing that sweet, sweet caffeine. Obviously, your brain can't do all that stuff at once, but the power to do it all in order is there. So now that we've established how much brain power we really use, let's tilt the scales a little bit. What happens when almost all of your brain is suddenly gone, and you actually do have only about 10% of it to work with? Well, this happened in 1945 to Mike in Fruita, Colorado. Except Mike wasn't a person, he was a chicken. Lloyd Olson, Mike's owner, was going to have the poor fowl for dinner one night. When he went to cut off Mike's head, however, he missed the jugular vein, which means certain death if it's ruptured, and instead cut off Mike's head with only an ear and the base of the brainstem, remaining. You can imagine just how surprised Lloyd was when his chicken stood back up and tried to keep moving around. So the farmer cleaned up the wounds on Mike's headless neck, and lo and behold, the chicken didn't die. In fact, it lived pretty much the same way most chickens do. See, the brainstem is probably the most important part of the brain when it comes to survival because it controls the core body functions: breathing, swallowing, keeping the heart rate up, etc. So Lloyd Olson was able to keep Mike alive just by feeding him milk and the occasional corn kernel through the open esophagus. Mike became a celebrity after that. People came from all around to see a headless chicken walk around as if it weren't a problem. But sadly, Mike died 18 months later, but not in the way you'd expect. He ended up choking on some food, which closed his windpipe, causing him to suffocate. If that hadn't happened, it's possible Mike could have lived a perfectly normal chicken life. Other than not having a head, that is. So the 10% of the brain myth has been shattered into pieces. Alas, that means we aren't hiding any hidden potential within our brains that we can just easily access, and we can't suddenly become hyper-intelligent and you'll be able to cheese your way through that test you have coming up. Our brain is an amazing piece of machinery that we have at our disposal, and we shouldn't waste it. So keep on wondering, and if you have any questions you'd like me to answer, leave it in the comments or email me at stuffyouprobablywondered@gmail.com. This channel can only survive with your help, so please don't hesitate to ask your most burning questions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on Stuff You Probably Wondered.